Do you remember the last time you saw a firefly? Perhaps it was on a quiet summer night, when a tiny point of light suddenly appeared in the darkness of a garden. Then another, and another. Before long, dozens of small lights were blinking softly, as if nature itself had scattered stars across the ground. Most of us grew up believing that it was simply a beautiful sight, a touch of magic that made summer nights feel unforgettable. But what if the truth is not quite that simple? What if those flashes are not merely decorating the darkness, but are actually messages being sent? And what if some of those signals are not romantic calls to a potential mate, as we have always imagined, but perfectly disguised traps? Because behind that peaceful beauty lies an entire hidden world where fireflies constantly exchange signals, hunt, and sometimes employ deceptions so sophisticated that they have astonished scientists themselves. And that is perhaps the most fascinating part. One of the most beautiful creatures of the summer night uses its light to search for love, and sometimes to lure prey closer. So what is really happening behind those flickering lights we have admired since childhood? Are fireflies simply living lanterns of summer? Or do they possess one of the most complex secret languages in the entire insect world? What makes this story even more fascinating is that when we talk about fireflies, we are not talking about a single species. Today, scientists have identified more than 2,000 species of fireflies found across much of the world, from the humid forests of Asia to the summer meadows of North America. But the surprising part is this. Despite being famous for their light, fireflies are not actually the flying lanterns many people imagine them to be. They are beetles. Let that settle for a moment. The creatures we often associate with the magic of summer nights belong to the same order of insects as many of the beetles living around us every day. And that is only the beginning. Because if you look a little closer, you begin to realize that the most remarkable thing about them is not the light itself, it is why they produce it. To human eyes, those flickering flashes seem like a beautiful performance designed to be admired. But in the world of fireflies, every flash carries meaning. An introduction, an identification signal, a call, a reply, sometimes a warning, and sometimes a lie. That is something very few people ever stop to consider. Because behind the romantic beauty we remember from childhood is not a creature trying to decorate the night. She does not glow for us. She does not light up the darkness to create summer memories. For most of her life, she is simply trying to accomplish a few essential tasks: find a mate, avoid becoming a meal for a predator, and ensure that the next generation will return when summer comes again. That is not the behavior of an artist putting on a performance. It is survival, written in light. And that leads us to a much more intriguing question. If the light is not there to beautify the night, then what are fireflies really saying to one another in the darkness? So what are those tiny flashes of light really saying to one another in the darkness? To answer that question, we need to begin with a fact that very few people know. The glowing lights of a summer night are not simply love letters. Sometimes they are weapons, and sometimes, Dak, they are traps. If you have ever seen a firefly hovering above a patch of grass, sending out gentle pulses of light before disappearing into the darkness, you might assume it is simply wandering aimlessly. But the reality is very different. Every signal carries meaning, every flash, every pause, every brief burst of light before darkness returns. All of it is part of a secret language. Males send signals while flying. Meanwhile, females wait patiently among the vegetation below. If the pattern matches the code of their species, they respond. A conversation begins. No sound, no words, only light. Yet, not every conversation leads to romance. Some females in the genus Photurus have evolved an astonishing strategy. They listen, they watch, and then they perfectly imitate the signals of other species. A male sees a familiar flash. He believes he has found a mate. He moves closer. But what awaits him is not love. It is an ambush. The prey is captured, killed, and ultimately becomes nourishment for the very predator that deceived him. Stop for a moment and think about that. A creature we often see as a symbol of beauty and romance can turn light itself into a remarkably sophisticated hunting tool. That is one of nature's most fascinating paradoxes. But if these hunts take place in the air, an even stranger world exists below the ground, because most of the life of these glowing insects is not spent among magical lights. It is spent in darkness. The larvae live beneath layers of leaf litter, in moist soil, or under decaying logs, and they are true hunters. No nectar, no flower fields, no romantic flights, only hunting and survival. Slugs, tiny snails, soft-bodied creatures hiding beneath the earth. A precisely targeted bite, a dose of venom delivered into the victim's body. The struggle gradually weakens, then disappears. The prey becomes paralyzed, held in enforced stillness, and eventually consumed by the small predator glowing quietly in the darkness. What astonishes entomologists is not their strength, it is the contrast. The larvae are hunters, the adults become messengers of light, two lifestyles that seem almost completely opposite, yet both belong to the same life cycle. And that brings us to one of the strangest developmental journeys in the insect world, because most of the lives of these living lanterns are not spent glowing. They are spent long before that moment ever arrives. Some species survive only a few weeks after reaching adulthood, just a few short weeks. While the larval stage may last 1 or even 2 years, let that settle in your mind for a moment. The most beautiful part of their lives is only a tiny fraction of the whole story, like watching only the final minutes of a film that took years to create. All the time spent beneath the ground, all the silent hunts, all the slow process of growing, everything leads to a single moment, that summer night, that brief season, that moment when the lights begin to appear. But what truly amazes scientists is the ability that made fireflies famous in the first place: bioluminescence. No flame, no light bulb, no significant heat, just a chemical reaction taking place inside the body, so efficient that almost all of the energy is converted into light rather than heat. For most of human history, no artificial lighting system could match that efficiency. Not candles, not oil lamps, not incandescent bulbs. Nature solved that problem millions of years ago, using a creature smaller than your little finger. And that is why the value of these flying lanterns extends far beyond their beauty. Their larvae help control populations of slugs and other harmful invertebrates. They contribute to the balance of forest floor and grassland ecosystems. The light-producing enzymes they use have also found applications in medicine, biotechnology, and modern scientific research. But perhaps their most important role lies elsewhere. In their presence, these glowing insects are extremely sensitive to pesticides, sensitive to environmental pollution, and especially sensitive to artificial light. When the lights of summer begin disappearing from a landscape, it is not merely the loss of an insect species. It may also be a warning that the ecosystem itself is changing. In a way, the tiny lanterns of the summer night are not only communicating with one another, they are sending a message to us as well, about the health of the natural world around us, about what is slowly disappearing, and about what is still worth protecting and preserving. So what should we actually do when we see those tiny lights glowing in the night? Perhaps the first thing is not to try to catch them, but to observe, slowly, quietly, because the presence of fireflies often tells us far more than we realize. Unlike insects that build visible nests under eaves or beneath the ground, fireflies leave behind no obvious structures around our homes. Most of their lives unfold quietly beneath layers of leaf litter, in moist soil, under decaying logs, or among patches of undisturbed grass. That is why so many people see only the light, but never the life behind it. So how can you tell whether an area still supports a population of fireflies? The signs usually appear on warm summer nights, flickering lights returning to the same location again and again, natural darkness untouched by overwhelming artificial lighting, grass that still holds moisture, layers of fallen leaves left undisturbed beneath trees. These are often signs that a new generation of fireflies is quietly growing beneath the surface. On the other hand, when a place that once sparkled with summer lights becomes dark year after year, that may be a different kind of signal. No more conversations written in light, no more courtship flights, no more tiny lanterns blinking above the grass. Only darkness remains, and sometimes that darkness is a sign that the habitat has changed too much for them to survive, and that is something worth thinking about. Many of us can clearly remember the first time we saw a firefly, yet we cannot remember the last. We often assume those lights will always be part of summer, until one day they are gone. And perhaps that is what makes these insects so remarkable. They do not make noise. They do not damage our homes. They do not demand our attention through annoyance or disruption. They simply appear, quietly, beautifully, and then disappear if the world around them is no longer suitable. In a way, the tiny lanterns of summer seem to remind us that the most fragile forms of beauty in nature are often the easiest to lose. So what do you think? Now that you know more about fireflies, do you see them as nothing more than beautiful flashes from childhood memories, or as one of the clearest living signals of the health of the natural world around us? Do you remember the last time you saw a firefly? Have you ever witnessed an entire field or garden glowing in the darkness? Or do you have a special memory involving those tiny lanterns of summer that you still carry with you today? Let me know in the comments below. I always enjoy reading your stories, and who knows, your memory might help inspire a future story on this channel. If you enjoy discovering the hidden wonders of the natural world, don't forget to like, leave a comment, and share this video with someone who once chased fireflies on a warm summer night. And if this is your first time visiting the channel, Be sure to subscribe, because sometimes the YouTube algorithm is harder to find than a single firefly in a giant meadow. Trust me, entomologists still have a chance of finding the firefly. The rest of us are not always lucky enough to find that video we watched 5 minutes ago. Thank you for joining me all the way to the end of this journey. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you again in the next hidden mystery of the natural world.